We're going to use the tiger's eye. Now, if you've never done this sort of writing before, and many children perhaps won't have done, what we're not looking for is yards of writing. We're looking for a few sentences that are beautifully crafted, that say what the thing is like. But we're going to have to use words in a special way in order to do that. So one way into this is, first of all, down the middle of the page, to write down the main things you want to write about. So quite obviously, if you ask kids that, somebody's going to say, well, I want to write about the eye. And then maybe, let's say, somebody else says, what about the eyelashes? So I'm going to put lashes there. And then the third thing somebody's going to say is the fur. So let's just take those three things and do a bit of writing about them. So the tiger's what eye? We need an adjective here, so here we go. The tiger's something eye. What should we have? Somebody give us an idea. I think staring eye. What else could we have? Thank you. Reflecting eye. What else? Piercing eye. What else? Glassy. Okay, lots of good ideas. I hope you're jotting these down in your magpie books now. The tiger's glassy eye. Let's go for that stare. Stares. Like, I think we can get a simile in here now. Like. Quick, turn to your partner. Can you get a simile? Look really carefully. What does that remind you of? What does it look like? Quick, have a quick chat. Okay, 3, 2, 1, come back together. What does it look like? Shh, shh, shh. Listen to each other. What does it look like? Let's just get a few ideas. A mirror, a solar eclipse. Sorry, ladies, it's a bloke showing interest. Solar eclipse, excellent stuff. Woo! You see, boys like this sort of stuff. We like to be clever with language. Solar eclipse, corkingly good idea. Totally and utterly original. Cracking thing. And when you hear a kid say something like that, you've got to leap on it and say, that's a great idea. I'm loving that. The tiger's glassy eye stares like a solar eclipse. Okay, now what about these lashes? So we need a word to describe. We need an adjective to describe these lashes, these bits here. Snowy lashes. Okay, we'll go for that. Snowy lashes. Now, if that tiger was alive, what word describes how they might flutter? Quiver. Quivering or quiver? Listen to it. Snowy lashes are quivering, or snowy lashes quiver? Quiver. Yep, okay, that sounds short, tight, and punchy. It's snowy lashes quiver. Now, the what fur? If you touch the tiger's fur, what might it feel like? Bristly? Thick? Velvety? You've never stroked a tiger. Coarse. It's probably coarse, isn't it? The coarse... The thick, coarse fur. Now, let's use that bristly. Bristles. Like. Let's see if we can get a simile in there. Like. Now, we could go for the dark colour, the white colour, or the orangey colour. It's up to you. Let's see if we can get a simile. Like. What do those colours look like? Like fire. Let's try that out. The coarse, thick fur bristles like fire. Right. So now we've got, and it took us about 3 minutes, the tiger's glassy eye stares like a solar eclipse. Its snowy lashes quiver. The thick, coarse fur bristles like fire. It's not a bad set of 3 lines, is it? And one of the reasons for endlessly doing this sort of thing again and again is to train them how to write. Let me give you an example as to why this sort of thing is actually quite important. Let's imagine we're working on narrative, and we've got a main character called Gary, and he's in London Zoo late at night. Gary paused by the tiger's cage. It stared at him with a glassy eye, exactly like a solar eclipse. Its snowy lashes quivered. The thick, coarse fur bristled like fire. And at that moment, the tiger padded towards the door and pushed it open. Ding, 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 ding. In other words, what we're training them to do is to write a paragraph at level 5. Good writing is not just about bunging 35 connectives in. You also have to be able to describe things that are happening in order to create a picture inside the reader's mind. So what we're doing is we're training them how to do descriptive writing. But it will also help us with our non-fiction. Would you recognize a tiger, if you ever saw one? They have glassy eyes that seem to stare at you, rather like a solar eclipse. Their snowy white lashes quiver. A tiger has very thick, coarse fur that bristles. The orange stripes are rather like flames. There we are. It's a really nice, descriptive piece of writing. Let's have a moment's pause for you to discuss this simple idea of short burst stuff that will then inform the narrative and the non-fiction. Have a quick chat. Okay, so obviously when you're teaching in the classroom, the spine poem, we call them spine poems, they go up on the washing line, and of course the word bank goes on the washing line. I mean, we did that very rapidly. You would probably want to spend a little bit more time brainstorming ideas and all of that sort of business with the children, so that when they write theirs, they've got that bank of words. So the strugglers can use that bank of words and get 2 or 3 very pleasing sentences. If you can't write a pleasing sentence, you're not going to be able to write a whole text. So we're limbering up as young writers using this short burst creative writing method. If you go to the next slide, there's an example of a group 1 on the tiger's eye, the very one I think you've been looking at there. And I've put in blue there, you can see the key things they wanted to write about. Okay, on we go, Maurice. Now you've got a series of examples which you might want to show to staff. On the other hand, you might have your own examples that you want to show. There's an obvious one, icicles hanging from the guttering in the school. That was when I was a head teacher. It's not the world's best bit of year 2 writing, but it'll do. That will do us as a nice little bit of descriptive writing. On we go. That was drawing our hands and then writing about our hands. Again, some lovely tight use of language there. I love that my fist clenches, ready to collect my revenge. I asked him afterwards, I said, what were you thinking about when you were writing that, Mark? He said, Sheriff nicked my football at break time and I'm going to get him. I've always worked in posh schools, you understand. On we go. That one was outside my first school. There was an arch with 2 gargoyles, and Debbie went outside and she wrote a rather lovely piece there about these. She thought they were angel faces. Jamie chose to write about a drain cover, but that was Jamie for you. So this was Natalie in year 6. The tree is a dragon. Red stems are blazing fire. The feathers are a wild snake. Their smooth layers are rigid scales. The crown of the rooster rocks unsteadily like the blade of a whisker. Long strips of grass lie scattered among sharp, uneven daggers. Clustered leaves shake crisp veins of the unknown. Active eyeballs alert, straining the minute bead. Shaded berries burst beneath nimble bones. The rooster slowly struts nearby. Now, it doesn't come from a one-off. It comes from 4 years of being taught to write, and then children can write. Some of them will, in your school, will be able to write at the top of their game extraordinary pieces of writing like that. But you can see how she did it. Can you see? It goes the tree, the stems, the feathers, the smooth layers, the crown, the strips of glass. You know how we've trained her how to observe and take what she is observing and turn it into something. If they can't do that, they're not going to be able to use their imaginations, observe what's happening in their imagination, and write anything. So what have we actually been teaching? What strategies, what technique, what toolkit? If we carry on, this was my little list. You're training them basically how to generate ideas and then judge, choose, select which is most effective. Get fresh new combinations, and then alliteration, simile, metaphor, personification, which is the imagery. But also we're training them in terms of having a bank of things you can do. We now know that in our writing we can talk to animals, we can talk to roses, we can stare at things and describe them. So we're beginning to develop a bank of possibilities for our writing. And of course, we're teaching them how to brainstorm in their heads ideas and then choose and select. Let's have a moment's pause for you to discuss the possibilities with this sort of writing. Is there enough emphasis on the sort of short burst stuff where in 1 or 2 sessions we've written something really well crafted? Have a quick